What do you think of when you hear the name the Southwest Baptist Conference? Perhaps you think of an address, 925 North Sunset Avenue in West Covina, California, where we have a lovely office building erected in a cooperative arrangement with the Conservative Baptist Association of Southern California. Maybe you've never visited our office, and so you are not aware of the efficiently planned building which forms our headquarters. Many of our conference people associate the Southwest Baptist Conference with the Executive Secretary, whose office becomes the nerve center of an active denominational program and who represents the conference in the churches. Many of our conference, especially youth and Christian education directors, Sunday school workers, and sponsors, think of Reverend Henry Harms, the Director of Christian Education, when they think of Southwest Baptist Conference. Those who do much of their business with the conference by phone are grateful for the friendly, efficient help given by our office secretary, Mrs. Nancy Haslock. And even though many people have not even seen her, they know of the help that she can give by means of the telephone. Board members and those who serve on committees are well acquainted with this conference room, which has been the scene of far-reaching decisions during the past few years. There may be some who see our fellowship and suppose that our main business is just for fellowship, to get together as pastors and as workers, as these men are doing in Pasadena, and share experiences and advice and give encouragement to each other. Or some may think that all we are is a tool of the Baptist General Conference. When pastors get together, especially as these did in Thousand Oaks, to hear Reverend Ed Hales and discuss our larger work across the world. We're not tools of the Baptist General Conference, we're partners with them and work together in this great international program. To over 700 men of our district, the conference means men's retreat at Forest Home. In these surroundings, there have been decisions made which have not only changed lives, but also churches. And of course, through the ministry of the men, there has been a great deal of money through the Buck a Month Club channeled into church extension, and then the building of boys and the building of men through personal work and personal effort. The ladies also have their women's retreat in April of each year, and over 500 ladies have fellowshiped together in a time of inspiration and rejoicing. Our youth, if asked about the Southwest Baptist Conference, would say, "Oh boy, camp." This is where there is fun and recreation. But that isn't all. There's also a message and a meaning which will influence their lives not only for time, but for eternity. Other young people would tell you that the conference means Baja California, where they have had an opportunity to pioneer in missionary caravan work, sleeping and eating in tents, then spending time in devotion and Bible study together with others on the caravan and under the leadership of the sponsors and the pastors who attend also. Then going out into the highways and the byways to bring in the children and the people to the church in order that they might have a vacation Bible school or children's meetings or evening services. Then Missionary Long and members of the caravan can share the gospel with these who come, and they have eager hearts and minds to receive the message. The tent at Sun Canteen may not be as architecturally beautiful nor physically as comfortable as our churches here in the States, but it has served as a meeting place and a place of spiritual power and growth through several years. To establish our ministry and afford a base from which to work, the 92 acres formed by the blue line on this picture have been purchased by our conference and is now being developed as a base of operations by the Loren Long family and the Frank Koosters. But then there are those who lift their eyes to Arizona and the community of Cow Springs, where the Southwest Baptist Conference is working together with Robert Pierce's to reach the Navajos. They report an encouraging response in attendance and souls that have been saved because of the preaching of Jesus Christ and the teaching of the Word of God. The trading post serves as residence and meeting house, and although we have not secured tribal permission to use the buildings, the local Indians have granted the use of the trading post for this purpose. Even the anti-poverty program is moving into this area and is giving us some opportunities to serve the community there. But what is the Southwest Baptist Conference? Actually, it's one of the 19 districts in the Baptist General Conference as shown by this map. It includes all of Southern California and Arizona, and its major ministry is that of church extension. This is reflected in the growth of the conference during the past 2 decades. In 1945, there were only 3 churches in the Baptist General Conference in Southern California. In fact, there were only 8 in all of California. The 11th Street Baptist Church of Los Angeles was one of these. And the Bethel Baptist Church of Pasadena was another. As you are now aware, this church is united with the First Baptist Church of Altadena and will be called in the future merely Altadena Baptist Church. This is a merger which brings the 2 groups together and causes them to serve together in their community. The 3rd church was College Avenue Baptist Church of San Diego, which was meeting in this structure at that time. The old building was removed to a new location. New buildings were added, and although we don't have a picture of their new sanctuary just now coming to completion, we will have an opportunity to see it next year when the annual meeting is held at College Avenue Baptist Church of San Diego. In 1945, the growth began in our conference. La Crescenta saw the birth of the First Baptist Church under the extension program, which at that time was linked with Northern California in the California Baptist Conference. The smaller building was outgrown and expanded and remodeled, and then outgrown and remodeled over and over again. And here is the fruit of their progress, the great new sanctuary building. A little community known as Lakewood Village saw the start of another extension church of the Southwest Baptist Conference. Not only has a new building been added to the enlarged facilities, but an additional building program is on the drawing board right now. The Bethany Baptist Church began in the open country of East Whittier, starting in homes of former members of La Crescenta, and then in the rented Seventh-day Adventist Church, and finally in their own building. Today, the beautiful edifice which they have constructed must be seen not only from the front, as you see it in this picture, but also from the rear to appreciate its beauty and dignity. From the 11th Street Church came the Baldwin Hills Baptist Church of Los Angeles. Starting from meetings in the pastor's home, the Grace Baptist Church of Riverside put up its first unit, and step by step completed a sprawling complex of functional buildings which demonstrate spiritual and material growth. The First Baptist Church of Reseda, with much sacrifice and labor, completed its sanctuary building and is now completing its additional Christian education building to care for its greatly expanded ministry. The Lincoln Avenue Baptist Church of Escondido was on pastoral aid only a very short time before it became self-supporting, and today it is completing a new two-story Christian education building under the leadership of Pastor Henry Lord. The First Baptist Church of Yucaipa is one of several churches who united with the conference after attaining strength independently, not having been developed under our extension program. But they felt a kinship with us because of our spiritual fellowship and missionary outreach. This is their new sanctuary, dedicated on Easter Sunday of 1966. The Nutwood Street Baptist Church of Garden Grove started in a moose hall, and now has this building and takes an active part in sponsoring and guiding new churches in the area. The San Diego area has an extension program almost all of its own, this being only one of a dozen missionary churches, this being the Trinity Baptist Church of Allied Gardens. The Conference Baptist Church of Westminster demonstrates again the variety of styles and designs among our churches. One of our newer churches is the First Baptist Church of Simi Valley, now contemplating additional Christian education facilities because of their exploding Sunday school and youth program. Lake Arrowhead boasts a picturesque log cabin appearance to blend with the mountain scenery all around it. Palm Sunday was the day of triumphal entry for the Crestview Baptist Church of San Bernardino when they occupied this newly completed building. And so we could go on to the other 36 or more churches, but we cannot. I have two reasons for this, a lack of time and a lack of pictures. But we want you to see some of the problems and the procedures in church extension. Everyone knows that California's population is growing, and homes are covering the hills and the valleys. Our district is in the midst of a great mission field, not only lost men, women, and children who need Christ, but also lives which Christ has touched and who have treasure and talent which should be directed and channeled into God's work. We build shopping centers in which these people who move into these new areas can secure raiment and food for their bodies. What about their souls? Are we providing some place for them to receive the spiritual needs which they have? Where to begin? That's the question which requires God's wisdom to answer. The money that our churches provide must be spent wisely and efficiently. Behind these doors are people, and people are needed before we can have churches. Churches are made out of people. The youth, recruited and assigned to a neighborhood, can be used to cover a large area and discover prospects. This was one of our developments just during the past year, in getting youth caravans to go into new areas to survey districts, as these are doing in Placentia. Most of our extension churches have been started in Bible study and prayer meetings in homes, such as this group meeting in Torrance. They are looking for facilities in which to hold Sunday services and expect to begin in September. Our Bethany Baptist Church of Thousand Oaks looked for a place, and this is all they could find: Peterson's barn. To see the sign reading Conference Baptist Church on a sheet metal barn door is a little unusual, to say the least. Going inside, although this picture is dark, we have a sense of worship. The Lutheran Church had used this building previously, and incidentally, during the rain last winter, the people were sprinkled. Now, we don't blame the Lutherans for this, we blame the building. And that's why the plastic stretches between the light fixtures, as you see it on the picture. But there's another sign on the other door, and when Pastor James Renberg saw the sign posted on that door, he called the fire inspector. The fire inspector gave permission to meet a month at a time in the barn. And with this uncertainty hanging over these people, the people have purchased the top of a hill in the center of the valley. This is going to be for their future building. It will require much investment by a small group of people, but there's no other way to do it. This is the only way in which we can have a testimony in that area. Or let's go over the hill to Camarillo, where this little home houses the Camarillo Heights Baptist Church. Depleted and discouraged last year, this group took giant strides of faith and now have crowded out this little sanctuary in the garage, and they are seeking other property where they will have room for expansion for their enlarged congregation. A similar situation is limiting the growth of the Crestview Baptist Church of Claremont, where this little farm home has served up to 138 people on a Sunday. The Sunday school is crowded out into the trailer in the background, and classes meet on the lawn and under the trees in Claremont. Our newest experience and experiment in finance, issuing $170,000 worth of revenue bonds, was the means for purchasing this church property for the Warner Avenue Baptist Church of Huntington Beach. Only 21 people were members when the property was purchased, but that number has quintupled within a year. The Christian Education Building, we thought, was ample to serve the needs of the Sunday school of this group for at least a few years. But already they're using these tents, which the previous owners left behind. The attendance has gone up over 260. Not all congregations can get property, even when they have the financing arranged. The Bethel Baptist Church of La Habra has been meeting in the American Legion Hall in La Habra, and twice have been rebuffed in trying to secure land. Pray that their present efforts may be successful. Our bond issue also was designed to buy land and erect a building for the University City Church in San Diego, meeting in the school building which is shown here. After disappointments and delays, it looks as though property might be available. The property shown here, being surveyed by a group of pastors and workers from San Diego, is the property which seems to be the final location of the University City Baptist Church. These pastors and workers in San Diego have been giving wise counsel and helpful support. So in a day when moral and spiritual darkness are settling upon our society, we need to keep the light of our testimony shining out into the communities of the Southwest. For the night cometh when no man can work. Our office sign shines out into the darkness every night because it is controlled by a time clock automatically. In our missionary outreach, there is nothing automatic, for the light of the gospel must be fed by the prayer, the support, and the participation of God's people, of whom Paul said, "Ye shine as lights in the world, holding forth the word of life."